I'm sorry, my doctor doesn't need to read all of that. Hello and welcome back to my Dandelion Diaries. Today I want to chat with you guys about habit trackers. I get lots of questions about my habit trackers year after year, and this time I want to, one, go over the trackers that I use on a daily basis, and two, kind of brainstorm out loud what I'm planning on tracking for 2026. So kind of like pre-planning my 2026 habits that I want to look into, or kind of update some things that either need to be, taken off or added in, all those kinds of lovely things. So let's go ahead and start. It's going to be a chatty video, so just buckle up, buttercups, and let's get a move on. I'm going to start with my health journal here. This is probably the one I used the most. I've always had a health journal in a week's size like this for like, I don't even know how many years now. It's probably over 5 years at this point. And I always do habit trackers in the back that are like this. So it has a sleep, mood, and stress tracker on the top in a bit of a line graph, a section to track my menstrual cycle, and then a section on the bottom where I usually track like food groups, main habits that I'm trying to keep track of. And overall, I like using this format and have used this format particularly because I can correlate the data. So I can see, okay, how's my sleep doing up here? How was my eating habits down here? And see maybe where I went wrong or what was causing it, and all of that kind of good stuff. I did skip a couple of months in here just because I was kind of having a rough time in my planners at some point, kind of like right after my vacation that was really long. I just had a long session of getting back on track. But previous years I have done like overlays, like with myself, seeing like how my Januaries have changed, how my Februaries have changed, how my Marches have changed. You get the idea. And what I really want to change ultimately for this next year is, one, what I'm tracking down here, and two, possibly eliminating the notes section here to add in other things. So I'm not going to work on that all today. I'm just kind of like speculating what my mind is kind of going after. But essentially, the purpose of this tracker is to correlate my sleep, mood, and stress to food habits and activity habits. So like weightlifting, mental habits, things like that. That's the whole point of these. This year in particular, I have also started doing, I'd say, more habit tracking in a new to me planner, which is the Journey Planner, which is this big girl right here. So I have essentially fully converted myself to use this as my main book, especially for 2026. And the reason is it has all of the space for all of the things that I want to keep track of. Okay, so the very first trackers I keep in here are my adulting log, and then a new one I started for 2025 is my 52 weeks of cleaning. So I consider these two main trackers here the kind of like checkpoint for myself to see, am I doing good at being a homeowner? Am I doing good at being on top of all of like my I have one car on top of my car, or any type of like deep cleaning things within my home? Am I checking off like my animals, monthly needs, like their flea treatments, all that kind of good stuff? I really do like to go into the nitty gritty and see what I am doing throughout the year, especially if it's only like a monthly task, or even like every 3 months, like changing out your air filters, or every 6 months changing out your water filters. Like, it's mainly to keep me on track of being a responsible adult, hence calling it the adulting log. I originally got this idea way back when 𝗦𝘂𝗽𝗍𝗍𝗆 was doing this in her Hobonichi weeks. I think she still does it, but I remember seeing this video back in like 2020, 2021, maybe in 2019, where she talked about it, and I was like, that's such a good idea. I'm going to start implementing that into my books. And I've never stopped since. I just kind of update the list, which we will be doing today. And yeah, that. Sorry, I just had a brain stall moment. Anyways, the 52 weeks of cleaning was a new adventure for me this year because I feel like I'm not cleaning my home well enough, or I'm neglecting certain areas of my home. And it's very eye-opening for me to read the blank spaces, let me say. So like I really neglect this craft space, which is basically like a tiny little space in my bedroom. I just don't touch it with a vacuum ever, it seems, which is kind of horrifying. So that is something I really need to get on top of. And same with like my laundry room. I don't really clean my laundry room as often as I should. And same with like my porch outside, or even the garage, which I realize those are more like outdoor things. They probably don't need as much maintenance, but I still like to keep it tidy. And clearly I am not doing that. And I'm not solely responsible for cleaning my entire home. My fiance helps as well, and I check off whenever he does stuff too. So it's not just this is all my responsibility. It's like a joint thing, and I keep track of it for the both of us. So there's that. The other trackers in here are essentially duplicates of what is in my health planner. So I'll just show a full page because it's easier. But this is the same essential data that I have in this health planner that I just showed you guys in the habit tracking section. So it's like the same list here. And I realize that's redundant information and it's probably not super necessary, but for me, I really like having it in this layout. And I also like the portability of this size of a planner, because if I need to take it to the doctor's office to talk about like my meal habits or like blood pressure related things or feminine health related things, whatever, this I can easily stick in a bag and take it, and the only information in it is just health related things. Whereas this is a much larger, heavier book, and it also has like all of my rantings and journaling things in the back here. And like, I'm sorry, my doctor doesn't need to read all of that. So it's easier for me to just bring a smaller book like this, even though it is duplicate information in here. I still like it, and it's very easy to fill out. So I'm going to keep doing that, even though there's probably not a need to do both. All that to say, these are the same habits that are in that book. So I'm not going to be doing two separate lists. It's going to be one list, and they're just going to be in both books. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the last kind of tracking section that's like big that I do in my planners. I do have a few trackers that I've started recently where I've been tracking like my supplement intake, which is actually something I'm going to transfer into like my main list versus having a very small piece of it. Although it is nice to have a smaller tracker like this every now and then, I do like the bigger one just because I'm already there and I'm already checking things off. Makes it a bit simpler for me. So on that note, I am going to go over my list of all the different things I am tracking, and depending on how I can film this, I will do my best to share with you guys the exact things that I write down, because I do get questions about that a lot, and I'm happy to share. I'm perfectly okay with it. So I'm going to have a list over here on this Kokuyo Campus ring notebook that I just used to take random notes, and I'm going to copy down essentially the same things that are already on this list, and then perhaps add some other things that I want to add. So for now, I'm going to just start writing, and then I will likely voice over this part and maybe even put in like a graphic on the screen or something, so it's easier to see what I'm writing, because I know my handwriting isn't necessarily the best. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and label this out as health planner, not Heath, health planner habit tracker. So that way when I am getting ready for setting up my 2026 books, I can just take this sheet of paper with me and have it in front of me to write out all the habits versus having to, take out old books, copy them over, or think of them all on the spot. So I'm trying to be a little bit more organized with this right now. Okay, so the first kind of habits that I've kept track of in this section are mainly to do with like mental things. So reading a book, listening to an audiobook, or any form of reading, whether it be articles or a physical book, nonfiction, fiction, whatever. I also like to keep track of when I practice my Spanish, when I practice my Japanese. Those are the two languages I'm really trying to learn right now. I'm pretty conversational, I would say, in Spanish, if I'm confident enough. And in Japanese, I'm just learning the bare minimum right now with characters and small words, but I hope to develop that more into 2026. And then other habits on here are like meditation, stretching, lifting weights, walking, and running. I kind of consider that like my exercise group. I like to keep track of what days I am doing all of those things, because I think doing them every day would be nice, but I don't think it's necessarily feasible for my body in the condition that it's in. It's just a way for me to see what days am I doing those things and how consistent am I. And then the next segment is a bit more related to food, which is probably the biggest group of things on my habit list for my health planner, just because, again, I do like to correlate it to like my sleep, mood, and stress, because I really do feel like food has a really big impact for me, especially because the GI system is so complex, let's say, that there's lots of different reactions you can have from different foods. So I like to keep track of my water intake, my sugar, my soda intake. Am I getting a full serving of fruits every day? Am I consuming caffeine? Am I eating out at restaurants? And if I am eating out, is it fast food? And then I also thought about adding it back in here, vegetable intake, but I ended up not doing it just because I feel like I've been really good with my vegetables this year, and I don't really feel the need to add that check off again, because I was literally checking it off every single day, which is always good to have a consistent marker, but I felt like that one was no longer necessary for me. So I kept fruit, but I took off vegetables. The next little segment is kind of about, I would say, I don't really know how to categorize this one. It's essentially, am I having a conversation with somebody during the day? So am I using my voice, or am I talking to somebody on the phone, or maybe messaging somebody through email? I still count that as a conversation. It's just an e-conversation. And then also, am I leaving my house, whether to go to the post office to drop off orders, whether it is to go to the grocery store, whether it is to just take a drive if I need to get out of the house. And then also, am I spending 20 minutes outside, preferably in the sunshine, but I'll take what I can get, although it is pretty sunny here most of the time in Texas. So I guess this group is more of like physical well-being. I just feel it's really important for me to have those conversations every day, and then also leave the house very regularly, because I struggle with anxiety, and if I don't do those things, I feel like it just builds. Like I have this anxiety that builds or something. I don't know how to explain it, but that's what I got. And then the last section on here that I've regularly kept track of is like normal hygiene things. So am I brushing my teeth and flossing? Am I washing my hair? And am I moisturizing? So those three are like the main ones I considered there. I am thinking about adding in some other hygiene things for next year, but I don't know how I feel about it yet. I really want to keep track of when I'm exfoliating my skin, because I am using a liquid exfoliator on my skincare routine, and I want to make sure that I'm not being too harsh with that. So I want to maybe do it like every 3 days. So I do want to keep track of that. And I also kind of want to keep track of like bowel movements, which I know that's probably really gross for some people, but being regular in digestion is very important to me. And especially going into next year, I'm hoping to become a mom, and I definitely want to make sure that I'm keeping track of all of my bodily functions and basically ensuring that I'm making a healthy space for that possibility. Anyways, the other things I'm thinking about adding into my habit tracker on these pages, kind of to go with menstruation, would be intimacy. Again, like I said, I'm trying to become a mom, and I do think I really need to keep track of that. So I don't know if I'm going to do it on these pages, because it's a very private thing for me, and I kind of want a separate space that's not going to be on the internet for that. But it's an option that I'm looking at. And then I also want to add in no spend. So I'm trying to be better about my spending, especially with stationery and my hobbies, and I just want to keep track of days that I'm not spending any money on those things. So that's pretty much it for my health habit planner tracker section. Okay, so pretty much that is all I want to put here for health habit planner. So essentially that's going to be the same list that's going to go in my weeks for next year that I'm using as a health planner. Well, technically my Sterling Ink N2, but it's a week size planner. And it's also going to go into my habit section of my journey planner next year as well. So assuming I can fit all of those things. If not, I know I can fit all of those things in the little size planner. So the next habit list I really want to do kind of relates more to garden. I'm hoping to start back up my garden next year, especially because this year I have taken a break. I typically have a garden planner. This was the one that I had for 2025 and I ended up not using because I got engaged and all of my focus went into wedding planning versus planning a garden. So sadly this book did not get used, but I plan on doing a garden for 2026. So I want to have a list of, I don't want to call them habits, but maybe like routines that I want to keep track of throughout the year. And I don't know if I'm going to make it more of like a monthly checkoff or a weekly checkoff or how I'm going to do it yet. I'm just kind of brainstorming ideas for this right now. And yeah, we're just doing it together because why not? So I think for this, I really want to do a focus on like my pets and animals, and then also on my, I would say just lawn care in general. So there's that. So starting off, I know I want to keep track of like my chicken coop. Typically, I like to clean it out every 3 to 6 months, depending on how nasty it gets in there. I do like a deep litter method, so it's usually pretty fresh. I'll just throw top shavings on, and then again, every 3 to 6 months, I pull everything out and clean it really good. So definitely need to keep track of that. And then I also want to keep track of like my animals, which I am a pretty heavy animal household, I would say, but we do have a property and everybody pretty much is outside most of the time. I have 4 dogs and 4 cats, and I want to keep track of all of their like fleet treatments. So like, are they getting their treatment every month? Are we bathing them maybe once a month, or how often that's happening? Am I continuing up with like claw management specifically for the dogs here, just because I need to make sure that their nails stay nice and trimmed. And then I'm also debating on tracking like wormer. So am I like deworming them at any point in the year? And same with rabies. Certain regulations involve around rabies where it's like every year, every 3 years, every 5 years. It just depends on where you're at. So I definitely want to keep track of that. And that's pretty much all I could think of to track with like my dogs and cats. Obviously feeding them twice a day is already like a habit, so I don't need to keep track of that. And same with like playtime, cuddles, all those kinds of fun things are already being done. So maybe I'll just add one in there to make it a fun thing to track. I don't know. But other things for like my garden or I should say garden home outside section, would be giving my chickens their dewormer, which is necessary considering they're pecking at the ground constantly. But also cleaning our AC unit. So we want to make sure we're cleaning that once a year, just so it runs well. And Texas heat is no joke, and that AC unit saves lives. But the other things on here are kind of like, when am I mowing our front yard, and when are we mowing like the backyard? Primarily places that we like to walk. We do have a lot of brush and like poison ivy and things like that. So I like to keep what we like to walk on mowed down. And again, my partner helps a lot with that. So it's a space that I can keep track of it for both of us. Because he's not a paper guy in this way. He likes to keep track of his things on paper, but not to my level, I would say. But that's pretty much all I could think of for garden habits. If you have a garden, definitely let me know like what you like to keep track of on either like a monthly or a yearly basis. If there's anything specific that you like to do. Because I love ideas added to this category of my life. Okay, now that I finished garden, which I know was not necessarily on the list of original things I've done, I want to move into the main kind of tracking that I've been doing in my journey planner with the adulting log and the 52 weeks 52 weeks cleaning tracker. So I'm going to start with adulting log first. I'm going to write all of them down, and then I'm going to I think I'm going to arrange them. So, because in this list, they're like really jumbled, and I want to arrange them to where they're like categorized a bit better for me. But I'm going to go ahead and title this list the adulting log. Okay, so essentially the list here, I'm just going to read down what I have again. I have mattress pad, which basically means when I wash my mattress pad, rotate mattress, am I rotating my mattress once a year, how often I'm changing out my toothbrush head, which hopefully is once a month, if not once every 2 months. My razor, how often I change that out, when I give myself a haircut, which is usually like every 2 to 3 months. Dental cleaning, which is twice a year. Nail care. I did put a question mark by nail care for me because I've been really getting into nail polish lately. It's probably stemming from like my ink obsession. It's just flooding into another realm. So I may be moving nail care to more of like a weekly check off. I don't know. We'll see. After that, I have dish sponge, cleaning out my fridge, cleaning out my pantry, cleaning my oven, changing my water filters, changing my air filters, checking the smoke detector batteries, cleaning my baseboards, cleaning my blinds or window coverings, cleaning my washer and dryer, cleaning my paper shredder, oil change in my car, registration for my car. I definitely want to add in, I think, cleaning my car because I have not been checking that off at all, and I feel like I'm neglecting it in a way, and I want to just take better care of the inside of the car by keeping it clean. And then I realized at the bottom of my adulting log, I basically have the same list that I just made for my garden planner. So I have been tracking all of these things for the most part, and now I have the idea to kind of push it into another book. So I don't know if I'll keep it on the adulting log, but I might. But essentially it's the same things I just listed off with my garden section, which is like cleaning the chicken coop, when am I bathing my dogs, when am I flea treating my dogs, when am I cleaning their paws, claws, chicken warmer, cleaning the AC units, mowing the front and backyard, and when am I watering like my indoor plants. So same things I literally just wrote down, but I had already been tracking them in my adulting log, so props to Danielle for that. But I think I'm definitely going to move it to a new space. I don't know. We'll see. But I think what I want to do with this before I move it into a 2026 book is reorganize the list, like I mentioned. I don't think I'm going to do that today, actually, but I do want to kind of break it down into more of like, okay, what is considered more home related things versus more personal related things, because like I have like my toothbrush, my razor, haircut, things like that, but I also have on here like dish sponge and mattress and pantry, fridge. Like maybe if I broke it down a little bit easier, it's gonna have a better flow going into next year. Okay, lastly, I want to go ahead and update my 52 weeks of cleaning on here. I realized after I have been filling this out for more than half of the year now that I missed actually a couple of rooms in my home. I shouldn't say like I missed them. I just think I didn't break it down the way I wanted or something. I don't know. I feel like I'm missing space. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the list again to prepare for like my next year books and to share with you guys, I guess, the rooms that I'm putting down on my cleaning tracker in case you care. I don't know. Yeah, we're just going to roll with that. But I do feel like I'm going to call it the same thing, which is the 52 weeks of cleaning. If I come up with a better name, I will definitely use a better name. But for now, this is what we got. So on my room list, I basically have broken down the areas of my home into like what I call them. It doesn't necessarily mean I have an entire room for these things. It's like little sections of rooms usually, but it's how my brain has organized them. So that's what I'm going to go with here. So just take while this is like, I don't have a separate room for all of this. It's just how my brain is laid out. I should just say space instead of room, I guess, but whatever. My first list here, or my first thing on the list is my reading room. Essentially, we have a space where we have a bunch of bookshelves with books on them. I call it the reading room. So I'm going to make sure I'm cleaning that, dusting it, mopping it, all that kind of good stuff. Kitchen, pretty self-explanatory. The dining room / breakfast area, I just call it the dining room because it's where we all eat, and that's what matters. We dine there. The laundry room, where the washer and dryer are. The media room, which is essentially where it could be like the family room, I think, or a living room. I just call it the media room because usually we are only in there if we are watching a movie or a show. It's like where the couch is, and yeah. Bedrooms, I ended up breaking down into 2 sections later, into guest rooms and master, because I was just lumping them all together. And clearly I'm probably cleaning the, well, clearly, not probably, clearly I'm cleaning the guest rooms more often than I'm cleaning like my own master room. So I wanted to separate those out. And then I have bathrooms, the gray room, which is kind of like another office. It's just got gray tile. So we call it we call it like the gray room, and that's just how it works in my brain. And then we have another kind of space for like my shipping station, where I print like my labels and have a bit more like business related things in our home. So it's also shared with like musical instruments. My fiance plays the drums and I play the piano, and so it like shares that space. So we definitely want to kind of maybe differentiate shipping between like the space between like shipping and music, even though it's like all in one area of the home. I also have on here entryway, which I need to add in hallway to it as well, because there's like a long hallway that we need to make sure we are also cleaning with entryway. And then I have my craft space, my office, quote unquote, which again is like sections of rooms, and then my garage and my porch. And the only room I forgot to add entirely to my list, actually, that I'm really surprised, is like the dog area. And essentially this is just like part of our entry that has like all of the dog beds and like their things. And I just want to make sure I'm cleaning that and keeping on top of that, because that's how we got problems one year. Anyways, I need to add that to the list for sure. Okay, hopefully that wasn't like super boring to go through the list of all of my things with me. I feel much more organized on all of the things that I want to track for 2026. So just a quick recap, I went over my 52 weeks of cleaning list, my list for my adulting log, my list for my new garden habits that I want to keep track of, and then also my list for my health planners and health habit tracking type of system, the things I want to keep there. But yeah, I feel good. I feel good going into 2026, having a better understanding of what I want, and hopefully me explaining like how I use these and giving you insight to like what exactly I am tracking was helpful to you. And if not, hopefully this video was still enjoyable or relaxing in a way. But yeah, I think I'm going to stop here. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I will be sure to do my best to answer them. But for now, I wish you guys the best. Hope you're having a great day. Be blessed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.